Hello, my name is Steve Gearhart, and this is the Unagi Observer. This week is part 2 of When Tokyo Was Edo. If you would like to see part 1, the link is down below. As discussed in part 1, Edo was merely a small fishing village of perhaps 100 huts before Tokugawa Ieyasu made it the base of his military operations. Soon afterwards, Edo would become a small, thriving city of about 150,000, becoming the capital of Japan and the seat of the Tokugawa shogun power. Edo was the scene of a new form of government for Japan, bakufu, or tent government. The Tokugawa shogun was the man who ruled Japan, but still paid lip service to the Emperor of Japan. The emperor did not reside in Edo, but in the traditional residences in the city of Kyoto. Now, during the Edo or Tokugawa period of Japan's history, Edo itself grew quickly. Land ownership fell under two categories. One was called Bukichi, and the other one was Chochi. Bukichi was parcels of the city that was owned by nobles and samurai as residences, and they could not be sold. This was important as the Tokugawa shogun wanted to maintain communication and power by allowing important samurai and nobles to stay as needed. Bukichi land had no value as it could not be sold or purchased, and only changed hands if the samurai or noble family had died out or were ordered out by the shogun with imperial backing. Only then would the land be transferred to a new person. Chochi was the rest of the land in Edo. This was land that could be owned, sold, and purchased by anyone, commoner on up. When Edo became Tokugawa Ieyasu's base of operations, it started to grow as his army needed artisans and other support services from the people. When Edo achieved the population of 150,000 people, others from around Japan saw it as an opportunity to get in good with the new government and move to Edo, making it grow physically as well. Since more and more merchants, commoners, and artisans started to live in the growing city, more and more land was acquired. Also, as a result, Edo Castle was finally finished in the late 1600s. While Edo was growing and becoming more and more the actual, if not official, capital of Japan, it went through some growing pains. Fire was a real menace to the city. Over the years, fires would break out, but a major one in 1657, there was a really big fire, and it decimated the population, killing almost 100,000 people. However, the city rebuilt itself. Several things happened as a result of the rebuilding. Notably was that Edo was divided into districts, each one administrated by 2 men each. Each district had a number of wards with a man in charge of each one of these wards. These men had great personal powers as there was no central city government. Another item was granaries. They popped up all around and in the city and served two functions. First, of course, to feed the people of the city, and second, to act as banks, as at this time in Japan, a person's worth was related to how much rice their land could grow if they owned land. Also, the arts and education took a great leap forward. Kabuki plays and no performances were everywhere. Edo then made it a point to not only provide elite academies for the rich, nobles, and samurai, but the city also provided several public schools for any commoner to attend. As a result, the literacy rate in Edo at the time was around 70%. Almost no city in the world was that literate at that time. And Edo did something amazing in the year 1721. A census was taken, and it was realized that there were slightly over 1 million people living in Edo. This made Edo the largest city in terms of population in the world. To put that in perspective, at the same exact time, Paris, the largest city in Europe, had 600,000 people living there. But just as Tokugawa Ieyasu created a new era of politics, the Tokugawa or Edo period, another new era would soon emerge. It revolved around the big question of whether or not to remain isolated or to start communicating with the outside world. The Tokugawa family and institutions wanted Japan to be closed to the world except for limited engagements, mainly trade. But outside of Edo, especially in Kyoto, the actual capital of Japan, many nobles and shoguns sympathetic to the royal class began to want to have the West come to Japan. Matters did not help the Tokugawa family when Commodore Perry arrived in Japan in 1853 and again in 1854 from the United States. Each time, Perry brought warships with him as a show of force in an effort to open Japan up for trade, and the war technology that Perry brought with him awed most Japanese and made many of them realize just how far behind they were in the world. To try to stay ahead of the internal conflict, the Tokugawa regime did try to accommodate, but it was too little too late. The nobles, samurai, and shoguns who wanted to open Japan finally won in actual combat after a series of rebellions and beat the Tokugawa forces at the Battle of Toba Fushimi in 1868. The last Tokugawa shogun, Yoshinobu, surrendered and conceded power to the emperor, who at that time was a 16-year-old boy named Meiji. Once the emperor was established, then the next period of Japanese history started with the Meiji Restoration. And that's when two important things happened to Edo itself. The first important thing that happened was that Emperor Meiji moved to Edo and made it the official capital of Japan. At that time, it was kind of customary to do that. It was a show of power to the people of Japan by taking over the base of operations of the enemy of the emperor. Now, the second important thing that happened was that Emperor Meiji then made a proclamation. Edo was now to be called Tokyo, which means Eastern Capital. So, Edo finally became Tokyo as we know it today in 1868. And that was how Edo became Tokyo. Again, if you would like to see part 1, please look at the link down below and links to other episodes on this channel. Again, my name is Steve Gearhart. This is the Unagi Observer, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.